That's it.
There.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. It is 7:04 p.m. on January 15th. And I'd like to call the meeting of the regular meeting of the Capital Improvement Program Committee to order. Members present. Yeah, from Koo, Steph Summers, myself, James Marshall, Christine Teller, Selectman Taka, Bob, and Melissa. We have you online, correct?
Yep.
Hello. Members absent.
No, Brooke, I gotta go to this meeting.
Oh, yeah. All right, beautiful. Members absent are Donna Latindix and I think that's it. That's it. We have all one today. Wonderful.
And
Two
I
vacancies.
see Jeremy Brothers is online. He's gonna be
And
doing
a
one of our vacancies.
potential vacancy filler. Welcome, Jeremy. Glad to have you again. All right, so first up, present to speak. If there's anybody either in the room or online, I'd ask you to state your name and address for the record and have your say. Let's start online if there's anybody. Going once, going twice. There's nobody but members here, so never mind. Anybody in the room? All right, beautiful.
So maybe they can, remember, the participants can be down the right-hand side so we can see them. I think you click that,
Like
you
this?
click on that little arrow next to participants
The
down
one
there and see
underneath,
that.
the one underneath,
You were
right?
just there. I
To
think
the
you just
left.
can't click inside.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, there?
Third one from the left, on the bottom.
1, 2, 3.
No, that's to the right.
Your other
Look
left.
at-
There, the left.
See where it says participants, there's a little
Yeah.
arrow there.
Yeah,
Click on the arrow and see if that gives you an option.
It
There
does.
we go. It
No.
doesn't.
You can.
Yeah.
but I think up here.
If you kick.
Ah, there you go. Gallery.
Yeah, but it says it already is gallery. Multi-speaker? No.
No.
Immersive.
Oh, you don't want
No,
to
we
do
don't wanna be immersive.
that. You can probably just slide that over to the right for what we're doing for now.
Alright, yeah, that's weird. Oops. Oh my god.
Peter, this
Sorry,
is gonna
guys.
be lost cause, and we'll address it as we come up.
No, it is helpful though. For the
All right.
cyber meetings.
There
There we go.
I
was just seeing Melissa.
All right, everybody. So next up, with no present to speak, approval of minutes. We have January 8th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
Move to accept.
Second,
All right, any discussion or comments? It should be in your package. I can't find mine, but
I do wanna note that one of the townspeople online really praised the minutes of these minutes, so.
agreed. Lisa is an asset for sure. She did a wonderful job as always.
Yeah,
the best.
yeah.
So I have nothing further on this. I had a chance to take a look at it before it was submitted.
Yeah, I read through it. And there,
All right. Seeing no further discussion, I believe we need a roll call. All those in favor?
I,
Right,
Aye.
Oh, I think we gotta do a roll call, don't we?
Oh.
Oh, no, not
If it's-
unanimous.
None of it's.
Well, not if
I
it's unanimous.
have to abstain because I wasn't there.
So we gotta do a roll
Sorry.
call.
all right,
I knew
Good job. All right, Peter?
I,
I,
Steph, I.
Jen abstains, and I, about you, Melissa.
Abstain.
Right. Minutes are approved. Thank you, everybody. There's my agenda. Right into. Whatever. There it is. All right, next on the business is, well, status report.
Sorry.
There's not a heck of a lot to say about that at this point, other than, work is ongoing. We did some updates to the website just to update the fact that we have 2 vacancies and the one is gonna be filled soon. I did talk, as we discussed casual before meeting, the financial office is pretty slammed. So I'm informed that chairs usually have to take responsibility of updating that. I just don't have web access credentials yet from Stacy, so she'll work on that. So we can stay on top of it. I don't think members get onboarded, but at least it's as up to date as it needs to be for the time being. I think everything else at this point in time, we're gonna address later, so I'll move on to new business. All right, first up, I'm gonna share a screen for this, if this works.
Ready to turn on the system.
I can find. Too many windows on a small screen, there we go. Okay,
It's letting you share.
share, let's find out. Send request,
Allow.
thank you. Almost like we've done this before.
And I bet, yeah, speaker view, it'll probably.
I think when it shares, it'll show Melissa up in the corner.
Yeah,
There we go.
All right, and we have picture. Melissa, can you see that okay?
nodding yes.
She's nodding yes. All right, now all I gotta do, I use PowerPoint too often, so bear with me while I figure it out. It's not that easy.
Just, yeah, just.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks perfect.
All right, beautiful. Except you can't see the top of the screen and I can figure it out with this. There we go, we'll get it. Minimize it? No, it's just gotta stay there. So yeah, first on the business is the equipment inventory and replacement schedule. So we've gone through, and I'd like to thank, the chiefs of the fire department as well as Heather and Troy from Public Works to help kind of pull all this together. Over the past weeks is just an initial discussion. Couple of brief comments up front, that we're gonna, the hope is not to do an exhaustive review here. We'll have a chance to go into detail on each of these as they present their request for the year over the coming weeks. But I thought it would be a good idea to kind of precursor this to get an understanding of where things stand, the equipment we have, and any updates since last year. And then we can go into the nitty gritty of where we stand on long-term, equipment replacement needs, at least from an initial analysis. So first up is Willington Hill. Same, no big changes for both either the Hill or Willington number one. Same pieces of equipment the last time. They're on screen. I don't think we need a play-by-play, but I think the visual inventory is a good help. All of them, just as an initial reference, you'll note the ages on most of these pieces of equipment are going on beyond 20 years, in some cases much further, at least 4 of them. So it is a concern that we'll address, I'm sure we'll need to address for the coming weeks. Moving on to Willington, that's me. Fire department number 1, we're missing a photo of the oldest piece of apparatus. But it's same again, we carry both ambulances, same 6 pieces of equipment that we've seen in years past. The primary ambulance. Oops. Oh, no, go back.
Does 213 get a lot of use?
Is it service truck?
No, engine tank 213. That's what it's down here.
It's more of a reserve piece.
Okay.
but, for larger incidents, it does get out.
Yeah.
The age of ambulance 613 is incorrect, I believe it's 2011.
613 is 2011.
That's the second ambulance, right?
Yeah.
All right, I think we got it, you find it too.
Yes.
Yeah. But we bought it.
Right,
Did you say 20?
11.
Yeah, its manufacturer years is 2011.
and I have the typo on the refurb.
Yeah, I caught this. There's a lot of back and forth.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Pick them up while you got them. We can update this. These will obviously be living documents as we advance through this season. And we'll get a deeper update as we have the.
I love that you guys put little icons in if you didn't have the picture.
That might be
An ambulance
Christina.
going uphill.
Yeah.
Oh, was that
That's
you?
Christina's
Yeah.
credit. Yeah, this is,
It's like, we're school children,
Yeah.
and it really works for me.
No, I need to see something different for each one.
so yeah, same
They
security.
didn't have a
equipment.
picture of a green ambulance for that,
No,
but they paid extra money for that color green.
We got a discount because it was. green.
Yeah, I know, really, he's just being ornery.
I am being ornery, it's been a long freaking day and I'm ornery.
Yeah, so no major no major changes. We'll wind up addressing the replacement schedule, as it advances over the coming weeks predominantly for the departments. Lots of updates for Public Works. And again, thank you to Heather and Troy for a number of back and forths on this, just to get it right. So we've captured both in-service equipment as well as spares and equipment that is now out of service. They have the 4 dumps. One of them, the 2015 Freightliner, has been identified as a high priority repair or replacement. Those repair costs are ongoing, and we'll get further information, or are pretty high across the board. So we'll get further detail on that as we move along. There are 3 spare trucks. One of them is now entirely out of service, so next year they'll come off the list according to Heather and Troy. The other 2 are spares that are not to be replaced, so there is no anticipated replacement cost or further need. What I do want to clarify with Public Works is their need for their budgetary basically impacts to maintaining these spare vehicles. Is that something the Board of Finance is going to come with, and what the strategy is for?
I believe that there's at least one of them that has gotten so bad that they're hoping that they can get junk price for it. But it's taking up space at the yard.
Yeah, so the determination really is get a sense of what the life expectancy is left on these, whether we're just looking at retiring one. As we go along, we have 3 pages of Public Works, so bear with me, that's the dumps. Continuing on with the fleet are all the pickup trucks. 1 spare now, 4 primaries. I forget, check my next page. One of these, which one was it? Yeah, the 2018 Sierra. Used daily, it's on the list for replacement of 2728 currently.
Which one are you looking at? I'm sorry.
The
The third
GMC
one.
Sierra, the 3rd one that's noted high priority on here. They identify it as a year,
Okay.
now 3
Yeah,
for
yeah.
us replacement. But quite frankly, the animal control vehicle, which is number 4, 2016 Chevy Colorado, is also on the list for next year. Not next year, but sorry, year 2 of our plan.
I think we can put that one out because it is used by all the departments now, including Department of Ed or Education.
Mhm.
Everybody uses that and boy, matter of fact, I think the staff from fire marshal used it last weekend.
That's Chevy Colorado?
Yeah.
But
The Chevy Colorado.
you said we can put that out, you mean
I
delay
think,
it?
yeah, we can delay replacing it. It
Okay,
spent 2 years not running, so it doesn't have a lot of miles on it. And now that we've got the mice out of the heating system, it smells a lot better.
so people wanna use it now?
Yeah. I needed to use it the other day for stuff, so.
But why would that indicate, if they're using it, why would that indicate we delay it?
Because it's in really good shape and we didn't use it for 2 years.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
It
so
sat
now
for
we're
2
good.
years and we put
Okay.
it back into the fleet for use.
Okay,
Because I was tired of watching it sit and take up space without being used.
So why don't we use that Chevy Colorado in place of the GMC Sierra?
The Sierra is a lot heavier duty.
It's also got, I think, a fuel tank on it for being able to fill some of the construction type vehicles. There's a big wheel and a gas pump and all that stuff that would.
The Colorado is a smaller than full-size pickup, so it's probably a half ton. And the GMC is probably a ton and a half, so.
I think it's a lift gate in the back.
With gates, got all kinds of stuff, yeah, that's a.
Are these assigned to specific public works employees?
I
Like
believe
the
that,
plows are?
I believe the dump trucks are, but I don't know if the other ones are. The first, the PWP 01 is, that's Troy's,
Okay, director, yeah.
Jim,
Yes.
I'm just looking at last year's plan.
Mhm.
So like going back to the
These
dump
have been
trucks
updated to Troy as of
today.
Monday.
Okay, but so like where it says replace 25 to 26, that's just what Troy wants.
Right.
That's not what we ever
Right.
planned on. We didn't even have it on the list.
Which one are you looking at?
The
Yep.
dump truck,
Which one? I'm sorry.
well, on the dump
Oh.
truck page. The,
On that,
04.
Yeah.
04,
okay,
it says replace fiscal year 25, 26. We never planned that.
We don't have quite, I think everything is more or less new.
Okay,
For this year.
I know it's different equipment, but a lot of this has been replaced pretty recently. I mean, there've been more purchases in public works.
looks like they've been getting one
And
every
like
2
if you
years.
compare to the fire
Yeah, some of
departments,
this-
I know it's different use. but-
Some of this, I believe, is his goal to get on a offset replacement schedule to some degree as well, but we can discuss that at length, but he has provided an updated 5-year outlook for us for which vehicles need priority and has assigned something pretty much each year, and we'll see that moving forward, but you're right, we just had.
well, I just remember
2026.
last year thinking it was weird that we didn't have any equipment requests like in the out years.
Well, we have 2 on there.
We have a,
Was year 2 to replace the 2015 dump? We don't have any. Yeah, that was on, we pushed it. It's sitting there in year 4, was year 2, moved to year 3, or. Former year 2, we pushed it to year 4,
oh, right, yeah, it's in
so
28.
it was on there, it would be coming up this year if we hadn't pushed it.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it was on the list.
Mhm.
He's also got. The loader, which we haven't gotten to yet. Yep.
Make sure I was doing it right.
Nope, let's move on.
What line is that on? Or no?
Uh,
I don't think it matters because I don't have that one. I have this one.
oh, yeah, sorry, it's not on that, yeah,
I know.
we're
We're all-
last year's schedule, which, well, you saved your copies from last week.
I'm careless.
Oh, that's right. Um. So back to the pickups, so he's got new on that list, well, not new, but, you'll see some of these are a little different than what you sent me added and defined, make sure we captured everything. And I apologize for the small print, guys, there's just a lot of information up here. So what was different on this was the animal control truck, I think we had as a. I don't remember what it was, what the change was, but this should be as current as Troy gave it to it.
Okay. So they got rid of that 2011 Ford,
Yeah, that was traded out for Troy's.
so we can take that off the.
Yeah.
Out of the mix.
We still have that older motor down at your, what's just down there today, I should.
Well, according to this, it's gone. Oh,
It's out of service.
It's out of service, but that doesn't mean it's gone.
right,
I'd be sitting there.
I
Yeah.
think
I
that
don't think
there's,
it's functional.
I think that there's some question as the proper way to get rid of some of this equipment. And so. we
The
gotta look
original
at that.
plan, when they bought the 2009, the PWE 08 on the next page. Was they were gonna get rid of the holder mower.
Yes.
And it just never disappeared at that time.
Yes. And that's, I think that's what the problem is the actual process of moving stuff out is a little convoluted. So we gotta get rid of some of that stuff, so it's off our list and
Yeah, so what we'll be needing to confirm is if it's permanently out of service versus temporarily out
I
of
believe
service.
I believe that the PWE 08, I believe that's what replaced it. And so if I remember rightly, the reason we bought that was because it was used, but we got a real good price on it and it worked. Whereas the other one didn't.
He's got that replaced
Got that.
in year 2, again, it just replaced. As noted, high priority, high repair costs.
Yep.
And it's the only that replaced, we didn't think anything else we got.
Oh, I've always had that.
The 08,
Yeah, I mean, he's got the
didn't we
2018.
get a deal on that or something and buy that not that long ago? or
The
am I-
08,
Yeah,
that's what I thought, so. I will be asking that question.
there were a couple things that he got out of his budget, you know, because they were reduced price and he just kind of acquired them. I don't think there was any CIP process in it.
Well, the roads.
Uh,
WE06.
Yeah. Right.
Not this year, I mean, it could,
I don't
well,
know, I think it was like the first year of our,
it might have been.
Yeah.
Right.
alright, I wasn't paying attention then.
I need,
I don't pay attention now.
That's kind of why we wanted to do.
Yeah.
You know, like a plan that captures all the vehicles.
Yes,
If we can.
Well, that's what we're starting on, so, is there another page to this now? So. Yeah, we kind of breezed through this, the holder we're showing is out of service, we'll confirm that it just needs to go away, and then
yeah,
take off the inventory. We have 2 trailers, one of them was recently refurbished, the other one, he wants to reassess. I'm sorry, that's the one, now he wants to reassess again in 2930 to see where it stands. 14 ton is outside of our 5-year plan currently.
Is that the 10? Oh, the 11, okay.
yeah, that's a 2020, it's not the old trailers.
Yeah, well, he's gotta go out 10 years for a 10-year
Yeah,
replacement schedule,
So it's in the plan for when?
2030,
31,
31.
30 to 31. So it's not gonna fall in, but. It's out there. So lots of equipment on public works side. I should have the number, but I don't. 12, 14. 18, 19, 20.
So let's be like asking questions and talking about this now?
Yeah,
Or
that's
waiting
what I'm
until they
confused.
get here?
I think,
We can go into more detail as to what they're, this is really just kind of a precursor. I don't wanna go into, because we don't have the answers, we don't have any, like, public works.
We got lots of questions right now.
We got lots of
I'm afraid I'm
questions.
gonna forget my question. I don't know what to do about that, but that's a me, I guess.
Like you stated, it'll be on the meeting.
Or you can, what I did is I wrote them underneath the vehicle. Because I know by the time I leave here, it's gonna be
Yeah,
driving.
I just wanna know,
The next act.
if there's a way to check objectively for safety versus, time, lapsed on it.
it's a good.
I feel like we are at the point where we need to 100% know that something needs to be replaced before we talk about replacing it, unfortunately.
Yep, I don't disagree. But I'd also say, yes, I think we should follow the Troy on that as well. Or I will make a note to have Troy prepared to speak to that when he comes in a couple of weeks. But I will say, even if we push it out, we should be planning for its ultimate replacement in some way, or shape, or form. Even if it's gradually more spread out as we evolve, so with that said, I think I gotta stop sharing. Any other questions on the visual inventory? Because I wanna go down to,
the only thing that just occurred to me is, that I'll ask, is if they have appropriate garage space for all this stuff. And if not, what's sitting out in the rain?
And getting new house nests and.
Well, it's like a trailer.
They've repurposed a lot of the shelters, the COVID shelters from the schools.
Oh,
Put equipment under.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, they moved a lot of material from the gravel bank to out behind there and expanded their parking area and put up those shelters so that they're keeping them out of the weather.
That's good.
Yeah, we didn't do tours this year, because we were all
Right.
existing board and, or committee rather, and we can do further updates as we get into the summer.
It was cold, so.
And it was cold by the time we got there. All right, so with that, let me stop sharing this and bring up another thing and see if I can get the display correctly.
Could I ask you something, just a protocol question about the big plan? Because needing to know how much, what stuff to bring and what stuff is gonna be fresh for now. If those change from week to week, if we do make changes in them or you make changes in them, can we have those kicked out for a new plan? Okay, cause it's just like a moving target for this time of year.
Yeah, so we have the fire departments coming
And I
in.
assumed we were doing that, so I didn't bring mine.
Nope, that's exactly how, you mean,
The,
the existing.
the big
fold. Yeah, the big fold that we haven't, there are no changes to it yet.
Okay.
We haven't received it.
good,
Just by way of process, submission.
I just
I'll send out a
figured we were
reminder
like-
tomorrow. Yeah,
Thanks.
submissions are due on Tuesday.
I
21st,
saw that.
hopefully. I don't believe I have got any emails, so I don't know whether that's working, but I don't think we've had any come in or refresh yet this year, so we'll see where that goes.
Any comments from the field on that? Are you guys working on CIP submissions already?
I hope, and and I apologize for the short notice given the transition, but the hope is that with our little survey at the end of last year, that it at least has people, at least has some of these,
Yeah.
the request process fresh in their minds. Oh, no. Next week, if the first we're all packed. Let me try sharing again. So I can put this up on screen, which is saying, oh. Direct people's eyes, and let Melissa see it.
Are you talking about the
Yeah.
funding
so
sources or something else? Oh,
I'll go, move this thing again. I'll make it live up there, go away. So. This is a first pass, and it's gonna be hard to read because there's a lot of data in there, but I'll keep it at this for the time being. So what we're trying to do, and this will be a living document as well, we can update as each department comes in and the submissions come in, but this is based on, as captured in last year's plan, if no updates were provided. Like I said, Troy and Public Works has updated, some requests on their end as to which year in our 5-year plan they show up. But we asked for, just to give some background, we tried to identify each piece of equipment, year, the initial service year, we put it into place, but really what we're trying to get at, and I haven't received that information from the departments yet, is what the next scheduled replacement year would ideally be. The typical replacement duration, meaning if these things have a 20-year cycle for requirements or you know, whatever the safety requirements are on some of these vehicles, then we should be considering it. And I mentioned that when the term came up, we have a number of these pieces that are older than 20 years already. The other thing I'll note here is that these costs are best available as of the last time that they may have priced them out. The only update we did get was earlier last night from Alex, Chief Moore, for engine tank 213. That was, I think, a $950,000 item. He said the replacement cost on that would be about 1.2 million as an update. And it has a 3-year lead time from when they need it, from when they put a purchase order in, when they expect to receive the equipment. So that is the next bit of information I'd like to try to nail down as a baseline. So that if we push something out, it's in year 4, and we say no, or it's in year 2, and we're not gonna do it, and they really need it in year 2, and it's already 5 years old, it's gonna take another 3 years to get it. We should be trying to plan for that. So
So Jim, where you put in that example, where you put the 1.2 in, that's the year they want it. So you didn't move it back 3 years.
No, I did not move it back. I put it in the plan because it is
Yeah.
a 35-year-old, 34-year-old piece of equipment. It wasn't in our plan.
Right.
We should have it. I think it needs to be in here for planning and discussion purposes.
Mhm.
So I captured it in what will be our year 5. For the time being, if the item is in red on this, it means it needs validation from the departments. I didn't get much from it. They need, the departments that both said they need more time to work on a comprehensive, equipment replacement schedule.
I mean, one thing I would ask about that or point out about that is they're both tankers, right? And they're both departments have that in the same year. So does that make sense planning wise?
It may not.
Cause those are big
These are all
suckers.
decisions we're gonna have to talk about.
And
once we
those,
get the
those
actual
are ones,
request.
I'm like going, let's buy something that was built in 1991. No, cause those are the ones that seem to last, but they're different brands. They're one's a Mac, right? And one's is something else.
They're two different trucks.
Yeah.
No, I know they're two
It's
different.
a hose tender, it has 5,000 feet of hose on it, and then our truck is an engine tank with 2,000 gallons of water.
Okay,
Two different
Okay.
purposes.
so the uses would be entirely different, sometimes crossover, but
Stuart, you correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe ET 149 carries any water.
800 gallons.
So it has 800 gallons of water. And its primary use is for long hose lace. If we need it in town or mutual aid.
okay.
Yeah, and
And yours is out a lot on a lot of calls, would you say?
Not as
or
much
is it
as
sort of the
ET
bigger-
113.
Let's go a lot more miles on it. It was our primary truck for 20 years.
That's what I figured,
Oh.
yeah.
It may be helpful at some point to collect the mileage and or hours of these vehicles
Well, that's a good
to
idea.
let you know how often and how much they've been used.
The reason it's two trucks in 91, the board at the time felt that if one department was gonna get a truck, well, you should get one for the other one, so they don't get left out.
And they did that for decades.
They did, yeah.
1981, truck to each department, 1991, a truck to each department. Then,
In the same year,
yeah, and then
before
2000,
they started costing a
yeah,
million
then
bucks.
2003, truck for each department.
2003.
And then when it came time to do the two trucks that were built in the 80s, the early 80s, that's when the Board of Finance says we can't afford both. I think you were right for that one, Christine.
Yeah.
So we can't do both. So Wellington Hill got ahead on that one by several years to get their new truck, and then we came, I think about 3 years after that to get ours.
And just to ground the discussion, the CIP committee is reactive to information provided, like we're not making the decisions on what the overall strategy is. I think we need to be a part of the discussion, which is why I think, it's up to us to do some of this background, to understand what the actual implications are. So that can be, we can either plan for it, better than we have been, or, as part of the emergency services committee or the emergency services efficiency building committee.
Efficiency committee and the building committee, two different committees.
Two different committees.
That's the problem. and-
But both of them can be efficient.
Both of them can be efficient, yeah.
And both of them can weigh in on
Yeah,
this.
Yeah,
This, yeah.
so with that said, I did ask the emergency services facilities building committee because of the capital needs to attend with the fire departments. The efficiency committee is members of the departments as it is.
yeah, it's many of the same members,
Yeah.
except that I'm added in on that one and I'm here anyway.
So that is, that's kind of we're not gonna be able to, we can react to what their proposed replacement years are. And make adjustments based on how we feel we can strategize, but the reason overarching conversation is to, how we do manage to fund this.
I realize too, that the regular plan has a sort of pressure to have it in at least by the 5th year to just keep track of it. This is a 10-year plan, kind of.
Yeah, so
on this
what,
part,
and
so-
let me go down and I guess work through the line items as we go through. I'll zoom in on the first. The equipment itself, if I can get it all in on one shot. So our 5 years are 25, 26 through 29, 30. So as we go down these items in blue, that is the total, the first line is the total cost as scheduled in that given year. What I've also added here, because we do need to start tracking it, particularly with large purchases, is an escalation factor. Because if you're buying something 5 years from now, it's not gonna cost what it costs today. That is subject to whatever we want it to be. If we want it to be 3%, it'll all auto calculate so that we can kind of decide what we want to do. If it's 10%, as I believe was mentioned at our last meeting for some of these pieces of equipment, it starts to look a little bit more, or
I
12%.
think it was 12, yeah.
You know,
Year?
Yes.
Specialty equipment, wait till you're looking at a 3-year lease.
But that, you know, I don't know that that was pinned down as, you
Correct,
know,
which is-
the
I
Blue
think-
Book escalation.
I think that the inflation in the price of this equipment works much like the inflation in the nation where it flexes and it's probably at a high point now. Let's hope it doesn't go above.
Yeah, so for point of discussion, I assume it's gonna be higher than a 3%.
Yeah.
So, again, this is variable, this is a planning tool only, right? We're not making decisions, but, so that captures in, and you get the escalated value in the next line, you get the total cost in that given year with escalation applied. There's zero inflationary pressure in year one, it increases 5% a year, it's a simple. So what this next line does is really where I think the effort of trying to understand the planning comes in. Any given figure takes the average of that year with the following 9 years. So that is the average cost
Wait,
over a 10-year
we're
span.
22.
The 10-year rolling average line,
Okay, where, can you tell me where that is?
it's right there.
Okay, thanks.
So that number takes and averages the cost in that year and the upcoming cost for the next 10 years. To get a baseline, if we wanted a more regularized long-term value. Then I also did it with, so it's there with and without escalation. So I've done this for each of the 3 predominant. I have this thing going out 30 years just so that we can capture long-term costs, but once you get out beyond 10 years, it's not like the paper is printed on. In all reality, it's too much is gonna change, but I wanted to be able to capture these values in the out years, so we extended it beyond. But based on, you know, again, these timeframes are completely subject to change. The only thing we do have on our plan currently is year 3, the 850,000. And that may change value for replacement of which one's that? The 1996 is Rescue 149 for the hill. So if you track that out, the average cost for us for a year falls without escalation, you know, sometime somewhere between 150 and 225,000. That varies as you go further out and we get, you know, bigger pieces of equipment start to come in, it goes up again, but that escalation cost increases things a little bit. So that's really, I think, what the planning number would be.
Can you explain the 10-year rolling average again? I'm having a hard time understanding that.
So, for example, this year, we have 0 costs coming in. There's 0, the hill has nothing scheduled for replacement in this given year. That 10-year average cost takes the values, the annual value for each year and averages it.
Oh, the
across those
850, 950, and 600, and then averages it over 10 years?
It takes the 850, the 950, and 600, so those show up in the 10 years. So the average value across those 10 years would be $240,000. So you'll see as this 850 drops off, that number goes down because it's no longer in the average. It assumes that that has been kind of taken care of, and we are behind the ball as it stands, but so that's one. We go into, that's the hill as a baseline for now, just for point of comparison. The next set of blues are Wilmington Department number 1. And you'll see, and this is where this is really subject to question, right? This 1.2 million is a big jump in year 5. Whether it's out, you know, if I do that, for example. 1.0. You know, it changes the numbers a little bit from an average point, but you know, it's one of those things.
Where did the 1.2 number come from?
It came from Alex directly last night.
And so you would add in, because it's in 2930, it would be way more than 1.2.
It would be. Well, I don't have it calculated individually, I have the total cost, so if I zero this out, the escalation pressure on that is $240,000 at 5% a year. That's just a simple extrapolation for 5 years. 5% over 5 years. These values, so these values capture the total. And what you'll see, basically, same principles apply here for one. Even though we have only a $225,000 item captured in year one as a refurbish, that number, because we're trying to factor in other things, jumps up. Because of those other costs that are coming down the line.
There are various ways to pay for these over the years. Back in at least 1981 or so, we got an FHA loan for the fire truck and paid that off. The one in 1991 was combined with a bond from Moose Meadow Road. So that's how they purchased the fire trucks and and Moose Meadow Road, like $1 million bond on top of that. Since then, it's generally been a variety of leases. Most, if not all, were paid from Fund 17, especially for the ambulance lease. So you guys will get into the funds accounts shortly. In theory, you know, the ambulance can be funded off Fund 17. That's an off-budget item that's not direct impact to the taxpayer, unless you want to use Fund 17 for something else.
Wouldn't have to tweet Fund 17.
But you have to watch the balance in Fund 17, and it probably, with fire trucks going for 1.2 million, it probably would, you know, back when they were only 650,
Right.
we were able to pay for that.
So we have that. We'll get to that as we go down the line. Yeah, so Fund 17, and I haven't got an updated numbers for Donna because she's slammed, but we are, I do have, let me get to it. Let's go through Public Works first. Similar principles apply, all of their pieces of equipment across the board. Oops. You know, it's in the neighborhood of $250,000 for that escalation, probably closer to 300 over a 10-year average based on their schedule that's currently provided. The big numbers are the ones for Wellington. So these are the totals, right? These last three blue things basically summarize all three of those. So you get the first set of four is the total in any given year across all three departments. Next line is with escalation, the next year is the rolling average, and then with escalation. So you start to see that the need to maintain these equipment schedules starts to hit the $1 million range if you factor in inflationary pressure. Based on the values we have now, which may not be accurate. On top of that, we have committed obligations, recurring obligations already for leases on equipment for DPW. Items coming out of Fund 17 already, 61,048. DPW has 88,000 in this coming year, and recurring lease payments, that shows up in the selectmen's budget. We are currently carrying, we talked about this last week, but Fund 17, I'm hoping that goes away, the expenditure for payroll, through discussions coming out.
But you didn't, the way you put that sentence together, you said Fund 17, I hope that
Oh,
goes
no,
away.
Fund 17
And then you paused and I panicked.
No, what I'm hoping is the payroll,
salary.
and the salary.
Yeah.
That should be a budgetary item, we talked about that.
I understand,
Yeah,
yes, but that pause killed me.
So, and then I've taken what we're capturing currently without verification yet. I'm trying to get Donna to do a, kind of a look back in a 5-year average. But we're currently showing a set $175,000 of contributions to Fund 17. There is a balance on Fund 17 of a couple $100,000 currently, but it's not. We only have incoming we're factoring incoming at $175,000. Which puts us at a net annual capital need, if we were to really strategize and start to not have big hits in a given year, for example, at a little over $500,000 for this year. It's just for vehicles. 873 if you're talking about long-term escalation and planning for the future.
So what you're trying to do here is
Here's
you're trying to sort of reveal or, you know, like have it merge what the actual cost of all these leasing deals plus outright
I'm
purchases.
trying to understand what the
Actual value
long-term
is, yeah,
need is instead of big hits in a single year. Right?
thanks.
So if we were able to, just for fun, let's say we were able to, fund this in any way. That would speak to having to have some kind of like savings account for, vehicles, because you can't just have this money sitting around and not use it.
So. We don't have a reserve fund is what it boils down to. We have a reserve fund. These items honestly don't typically come from our reserve fund, and we'll get to that in the fund balance. These show up in the selectmen's budget as a recurring payment. So whether or not we pay for these with a bond. That long-term obligations line is gonna go up, you know, because we have to pay that.
And but they do affect our operating because we pay the lease payments out of the operating budget.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's that creates more stress on keeping up with operating any new programs any departments want to do if we get increasingly, you know, laden down with lease payments, and it's definitely been more lease than outright purchase in the last.
Yeah.
What would you say, Christine? How many years have we been leaning on leases more?
I mean, forever, as far as I know. When I started, it's just how it was.
But as pieces of equipment are replaced, whatever the funding source, if it's a lease, then it's gonna show up, you know, it comes off of the net, but we're gonna have an recurring obligation that'll show up in the total. So it's still a total cost to the town. There's a cost to the town. We're just.
Oh, no, I
buying it
understand
outright.
that.
You know,
I
we're trying to
understand that.
distribute it via lease payments, via savings. This is only showing the anticipated. How we pay for it, based on the fleet as we have it now. And the average, and just as a point of note, I think, you know, taking out the shock absorber value for the schools, because it's really dedicated for that specific need, which is outside. This is just equipment inventory.
Mhm.
Our total spending 2 years ago, for example, to capital, that came out of your budget for capital needs was $700,000. That includes the libraries, that includes all capital projects, that includes the transfer. We don't even cover enough to cover the equipment. I mean, it's not, I haven't met or worked with any, you know, municipality that has the funds to cover everything. But there's an effort, you know, to start the conversation to try to get some planning into the comprehensive long-term planning into the picture. We have to have a baseline to kind of start the discussion, to know where we stand. And then hopefully, not just this board, but other boards can kind of make that determination and use that data to make informed decisions. And again, we're just reacting to the data provided to us in the departments. We can't validate, you know, you gotta rely on them to provide the information for the vehicle purchase costs. The replacement durations, the actual need, those things we can maneuver, but as a baseline, I'm just trying to get it, we are very underwater just like what purposes. So. I'd like to keep this living and we can keep it up to date as a tracking or planning tool, you know, we can see how these numbers change, or if we push things up. 5 years, okay, great, you know, it is what it is, but we'll update these as the departments come in and see where we go from there, but. That's what I tried to start. And I hope it's.
We don't have as much money as we need. That's brand new, never been happened before. In all the years I've been on finance, I mean.
No, I mean, that, like I said, Pete, that's a given.
No,
We ever has enough money, but
My cynicism overruns me occasionally.
it's trying to get a handle on
Mhm.
what.
Oh, no, I understand exactly what you're saying.
So. Because all of this, impacts what we can do on the building side without impacting taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So. I lost my agenda again, I'm sorry.
Christina, would you say over the years that you've been doing all this stuff? Would you say there's because it looks a little more easier to procure, easier to build in, that the town and the department heads and budgeters are more interested in getting equipment like this than dealing with building capital, which is messy and expensive and
Well, I mean, the equipment is messy and expensive too. I mean. I think it's just more tangible, and I think
that's what I think.
people know what those things do and why we need them. And it's, the poor road just sitting there, nobody's cheerleading for it, and nobody
Right.
really sees or understands, and then when you figure out the cost, it sounds ridiculous. So. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. It's easier to look at $1 million truck than a $10 million road
Right,
by like 100%, you know, a factor of 10.
And we feel like we can pick them off one at a time because it's not.
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
substantial commitment, but.
But then the road never gets done.
And
Right.
across 40 pieces of equipment
And,
that.
and.
I mean, if you were putting it down to a
Myself and
photograph,
then
this is a
Erica.
much more interesting photograph
Right,
than that is.
myself
Yeah.
and then Erica and then Christina before that, and then probably John Pat before that. Well, I'll tell you about Village Hill Road.
Yeah.
No, folks, that are against-
Decades, decades.
It's not as sexy as Chrome.
No. Shiny trucks, we want shiny trucks.
Okay, can we go to the panic room now?
Yeah, not to be pressing, but we do, you know, the goal here is if we can get as much data collection in early, we can at least. Start the conversation later, or be informed about the discussions later. Any other comments, questions?
Thank you for your work on that.
We'll keep it up as we go and see if it influences anything, but. And hopefully get some information in.
Just to interject into your agenda where there's no thing for it, this is Peter Bacon, he's.
I could,
We're gonna be appointing him to the committee. On Tuesday, Monday, we're all taking a day off.
yes. All right. Well, with that said, Melissa, any questions before I move on?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, where are we? Fund description summaries. So this is one of those things, committee goals and priorities. That was a great suggestion, Stu. So what we have in front of you somewhere is a 4-page draft. I thought this was going to be a 1-pager and then realized there's a lot to kind of nail down, but these are the funds in front of you that really impact funds or line items in the selectmen budget really impacts our work here. On page 1 is local spending. These are the line items in the selectmen's budget that we carry items on. They do not affect our reserve fund. But they do impact local spending. They're a local spending source, meaning they directly impact his budget or the selectmen's budget and the potential tax burden. Line item 910, that's just general debt service, bond and lease payments. So if we pay for something with the bond, the payment on that bond shows up as a value in Pete's budget. Line item 930 is just a direct expense in Pete's budget for a capital project. Not coming from reserve fund, it doesn't affect that balance, it just shows up as a, I think you did what did you do recently, security that came out of.
Yeah,
What was it?
The security.
the
spell
Oh,
pay.
you did that out
was
of
a direct
930.
pay on his budget, yeah. Line item 311, sorry, that is all of the equipment we just talked about for public works. That is their line item in his budget for debt repayment of all of those leases, for all financing costs. That again is a direct. So I think the principle behind this really is if we carry a recurring payment out of capital reserve, we need to make sure that that payment goes into capital reserve every year. And that makes
Right.
A lot of time.
Right.
So it's captured directly in. Budget. 515 is open space fund. That is our annual transfer, or that is the annual transfer that we see for the Conservation Commission and the open space fund. That again is a recurring item in Pete's budget, or that shows up in Pete's selectmen's budget. It is not expended from our reserve funds. And line 504, that is our transfer to capital reserve. So that is the incoming funds to Fund 04. Historically, we put in there just enough to cover what we're expending out, and we have, it's not really serving as a reserve fund, it's serving as a
It's a checkbook.
checkbook. So it's, we don't have an accrued balance. It is, it is what it is. Ideally, if we're building a reserve,
That's where we go.
that's where it would go and it would sit.
And that's
then we-
where the school, the
Correct.
Shock
That's where the
absorber.
shock
shock
absorber
absorber
is.
is. That is actually a reserve now.
Yes, and we do not have one for town projects. For town expenses, well, we do, but it just doesn't have any funds. But the transfer in shows up in Pete's budget. With that said, with any funds spent from that are considerable, or will reduce the. If we have a capital reserve funds to spend, it reduces the potential tax burden.
Right.
Overall, also, if we were looking for that financing. We're saving on interest and financing payments, yada, yada, yada. Alright. So those are the 5 line items that show up in Pete's budget. Like I said, all of those combined are, I think, a few years ago, like $711,000 annually. Next page is our funds and Board of Finance, with my year stand, I know that you have a 12-page funds packet, fund 0 through 49 or something like that. We only get involved with a handful. Fund 03 capital projects, that is, I believe, and I will confirm this with Donna, and I will preface this by saying I only had about a 5 or 10 minute conversation with Donna to go over some of these before I pulled some of the data and tried to compile this. It's for a reserve fund for specific projects that I think we're paying, that aren't bonded, that we're paying for out of.
Right, is that like reval where we put? That's where I get confused,
So
between capital projects and reserve. Because
Yeah.
sometimes,
I don't think, we don't have an active project in it now. I don't know how we've been using it historically.
Yeah.
So it's something I want to validate with Donna. But
If we don't have anything in it, I mean, wouldn't that mean that revals in somewhere else? Because don't we we're pretty much always putting whatever.
Yes.
50 grand in it, or not 50, but some figure.
20% of what
40.
we think it's gonna cost into it, because you have to do it every 5 years.
Yeah, anyway, so we just kind
yeah, I
of
think it goes in reserve.
Yeah, and it has to be a fund that rolls over, it doesn't disappear at the fiscal year.
so my initial thought was that like if a school project were to be paid for out of the reserve fund, we could transfer the money to there, just for that. And as it was expended, it was expended directly for that account. So the capital reserve is dedicated to that project.
Yeah,
Or whatever, a leader renovation of this building. New animal control facility.
Yeah.
Like that's where we'd be paying funds or transfer funds. That were earmarked for a specific project, but I think I suspect that's how it works. Lance will ask her.
yeah,
Or get any feedback.
I've always been confused about that.
Fund 04 is our reserve fund. We are currently tracking balances for the school related projects and town related projects. Balance carries over from year to year. It accrues interest, which because of the balance for the school projects, we are actually getting now a little bit of interest. That rather than paying, it's the opposite of paying a lease payment. We're getting some interest back. We can use reserve funds in any given year to defer for capital projects or equipment purchases that could reduce the need or the tax burden in any given year. Fund 06, we track those. That's one of those funds that we have on our fund balance sheet every year. It is essentially. It really isn't valuable for us. It's one of those, that's where donations to Parks and Rec goes. There's a $6,000 balance. It doesn't really fund anything. It's just.
A lot higher than that, though.
It did, and it was used to pay for something over River Road. but
Right.
It's,
And the pickleball courts, it was like $35,000.
yeah,
It was, went towards the pickleball courts, it came from that fund, that was all donations.
so it's not a significant donation generator, or it's not a significant fund generator. It is there. Like I said, it has about $6,000 in it currently. And it's available for Parks and Rec use because it comes through donations for that program. The open space fund is, we talked about it, it's a line item. The transfer is, shows up in the selectmen's budget, line 515, we talked about it. This covers land use and development fees and land purchases. Worked recently for the head property, thank you, at, at
Over
Fenton
at Ruby.
Park.
Headaches, I think it is.
Headaches.
Yeah.
So that is just so that they have
That's a
available
small
funds. It's a small amount. They have about $100,000 in there, I think now. And then we got Fund 17, that's ambulance billing. It's predominantly used for major equipment purchases and upkeep. Has been used for payroll. Balance carries over. I believe the balance accrues interest. I can't imagine it wouldn't, but I didn't actually confirm that with Donna, so I'll check that later.
That was not supposed to be used for payroll.
It is in the agreement I've
It
read
can be.
with, with Wellington One. That, that payroll it's one of the uses, it's not the first one, but,
Yeah,
it's in their agreement that's what.
it can be.
That
I
it's
think.
a resource for that, but we classically have. I think Stu's talked about this before, it's been used as
Yeah.
let's build it up because we know we're gonna have big vehicle purchases and
Yeah, and
where else is that money gonna come from?
yeah, based on the prior discussion, what goes in coming to that doesn't cover
Does it cover?
without payroll expenditures. So I'd like to see that practice stop, but that's a board of finance discussion, and we can advance that as we go. Because we're gonna need every penny for Fund 17 and the can't rest we have. Next page is the grants bond, next 2 pages are grants, bonds, and notes. So this is something that probably needs further. I did a crash course in looking at many of these things. And I sent you guys, you should have all received it, I think it was yesterday, so like background information on each of these potential grant opportunities. We track them. But by way of summary, Fund 02 is low CIP, that's local capital improvement program, it's a state talent grant, we automatically get that annually. We got 86,000 in 2024, it's a distribution for all, across all municipalities based on some formula, I don't know. But we get it automatically, we don't go apply for it. It's available for eligible local capital improvement projects like road, public building, bridge, or construction. It carries over. There's a long list of use restrictions, which I sent you guys, but it's available. We paid something from it recently, or we're planning, we have something in the budget, I forget what it is. We
For
had
what,
kept
the road
it under to building envelope. We was thinking the library,
Oh, the
might be doing the
library.
building envelope. We had. Last year,
Isn't that the one you can't buy vehicles with?
Yeah.
And you can't do school stuff.
there's limited, like the technology, and there's some limited
Mhm.
things you can do for school, but it's really not not meant for that. Funding,
Can I just ask what the red is? What's the red writing?
You're adding that in?
no, that means I need to verify it with
Oh,
Doc.
okay.
Again, this is a draft.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I should have mentioned it. So I'm waiting for John to speak. She has received this. We'll get down and add notes, and then we can kind of refine this, but hopefully this becomes a cheat sheet for what we need moving forward. ARPA is on the list. We've been able to use it to offset
It's done.
reserve spending, but that is fully expended. It is no longer available. So ARPA will
Go away.
trickle off of this list moving forward.
It's all spent.
That was a topic at that Region 19 discussion last night with state legislators and Region 19 board and the member towns, which is us in Nashville. They were talking about programs that have started that there weren't supposed to be programs that started, and I think our
We have
group is
one.
pretty good that need to be sustained in the operating or capital budgets going forward.
We have one project. The senior center person.
But started under
Position was
ARPA,
started
yeah.
under ARPA. And now
We
it's all us.
discussed that at the time, did that fit or not, and there were some payroll things that we did that, you know,
And we designed it so that
It tapered.
it tapered each year.
tapered off. Yeah.
We did the same thing with the summer camp, to bring it back to life. But, yeah, yeah.
So the ARPA well is dry. Steep grants, we've talked a lot about this. It's a competitive grant for specific projects. It has a $1 million funding limit, I believe, but you don't know.
And it was $500,000 until this year. This is the
Correct.
first year that's $1 million. And you don't apply and they give you $1 million.
You apply and they
If
give
you
you it.
apply, you have to justify how much you need,
Yeah.
and then you have to pay 20% of that, which is why I just.
Preferred, but not required. But it's a competitive grant, so if you can't match it, I suspect that.
If you don't put in 20%
Yeah.
cent match, they don't give you the steep grant,
I,
because it's preferred by them.
Salt
so
shed?
that is, Salt Sedge a little bit of a unique case, because we had hoped to pay.
The salt shed was something else. The last steep grant we have, and we're finishing it out now, is for the Old Town Hall.
Yeah.
And then the next one I'm applying for is for animal control. Because
Are we applying for that, or is that a joint?
it's a joint thing,
Is
and
that
there's
covered?
something about the state where you can't have one project with more than one town on it. But you can, if one person gets a steep grant to buy the land and another person gets a steep grant to build the building, and you break it into pieces, and each town can put in a different piece. But we still haven't come to a lot of decisions on. We've just broken it into two groups, regionalizing personnel and capital, that's all we've decided so far. We don't even know where the building's going yet.
Well, if it does come here, which you were talking about that at
Yes.
one point, then that we would be going for the building piece of this.
We would be going for like groundwork, and then they'd be going for building the new wing. Cause I think we need 12 runs and currently we have 8 or something like that. We have no cat facility and we don't have proper air conditioning. We don't have the right floor to prevent disease spreading among the
But
animals.
it's not the right footprint either, is it, or is
It's pretty close.
it?
Well, it's not, but we have room to expand. And our public works can fix that for us. In fact, they're currently in the process of doing that.
Thanks.
The steep grant's due by February 20th.
Yeah, we're not gonna get, I don't think we're gonna.
Will you
make it
even
this
have the
year.
current year stuff wrapped up? Because you gotta be fully.
Yeah, I'm not sure we do. I think I've expended all the money we can expend on this one. I've got to check on the last contract, because we had a contractor who decided that he wasn't happy with us, so he pulled his. He decided that he couldn't do one contract if he couldn't do both contracts. We wanted to give the other contract to somebody else. He got mad.
Yeah, so it looks like Steve Grant is gonna be an assist potentially with the animal control facility, but. Beyond that, it's competitive. We get it, we get it. If we don't, we find a way to pay for it. These next two, we have sitting in our spreadsheet at the bottom of the list. We, to Donna's knowledge, have never received or utilized them. But I did go through and lots of the trip, the two separate competitive grants. I think they're both run by Broad. And they both have to deal with, transportation projects, regional significance, like road reconstruction, bridges, et cetera. I suspect that, I'm told Erica had brought it up, so I suspect it had something to do with.
Village Hill.
Well, the village, this is
Yeah.
the South Village.
Wasn't the sidewalk project in South Point?
Yeah,
part of that?
I thought it was the Demoto one.
Was it?
Yeah.
I feel like that was something even more specific about economic development.
Well, when I talked to Donna originally, she basically thought we thought about tracking this, but
Um,
then I looked into them and, you know.
We had one project that we were gonna try to get trip grant for and we didn't. And I don't remember which one that was. I think that was, it may have been one of the culvert projects.
I looked at it, I mean, it was 2020, but they did have a map showing that.
Yeah.
Wellington did have one bridge project somewhere in southwest corner of Wellington. Under construction in
It's-
2020.
It's off of Moose Meadow.
That might have been a.
What's that
Oh,
one?
Liska?
Liska.
Oh, gosh, no, that was done in 2009.
Right. Well, I thought we still needed a new culvert there.
That's
Oh,
was
oh.
done, Liska needs to be done.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Hatchkis, yes.
Right, Liska
Right,
still
campground.
needs to be done. And I think that was on the plan as a trip.
It might have been. Yeah, I think you're right. There was.
And lots of, I know we applied for something for that. This,
We haven't gotten any.
and then there's one more kind of that we don't have on here. It's the urban something grant. That's what the 2 million we got from the state for Village Hill is.
Well, that's different.
Yeah, it's different and it doesn't require a matching fund and the money just shows up and there's very little, the guardrails are wide on it.
So that came, so
That one,
did you apply? Did the selectmen?
did I
know that?
apply? I kind of,
Or did Tammy?
Tammy called me up and said, do you want $2 million? And I said, yes. That's how I applied.
Okay.
And then she did all the work.
That's not trip?
I don't think that's trip. It's some kind of urban something. Got the word urban in it and I'm going, we're urban? And apparently we are for this.
Well, we are from the MS4s.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I said. That's exactly what I said. If we're urban for MS4, we can be urban for Village Hill.
Yeah. This for some street gang.
I know it does, doesn't it?
So at any rate, lots of trip. I was gonna not carry them, but then I looked at them and
I know.
I want to
No, I would definitely have them on the list.
I want to talk to Mike and just understand a little better, because I suspect, given Strog, that he is way more knowledgeable about the stuff than I'm going to get from online.
Maybe we just thought it was a typo with Melissa.
No, they're
We
definitely,
ignored it for decades.
yeah, so I mean, it's gotta be, their roads would have to be like a major collector or significant collector, arterial collector or something like that, is what
Yeah.
they apply for, so it really only applies to Ruby, yeah, whatever.
Mhm.
There's a lot of discussion on that, I don't know much about it. And then the last two items as funding sources are bank and bond anticipation notes and bonds, which we talked a lot about, which we continue to talk a lot about for school bonds, et cetera, et cetera. No, it's a short-term funding for capital projects, bonds are long-term borrowing. So while these funds, once you get the note or the bond, we can pay for significant items, but then the payment of the bond shows up as a recurring payment of each budget for 20, 30 years, whatever the case may be. So it's long-term debt service for us. We'll get into that way in a lot more detail, but that's really how we fund significant projects and the bank note, the money.
That's $130,000 a year, which is whatever it is that we're paying for
The library.
the library.
What is?
We have that line item on the current CIP plan for the library. It's like $135,000 a year.
The balance, yeah,
The balance.
oh, we do.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah,
that's the bond payment.
Sunsetting.
Yeah, it's like 175,000 and you lose $3,000 a year or something like that for the next 3 years. I thought it was less than that. Yeah, it's,
But it used to be much higher at the
yeah,
beginning years of the bond.
I can tell you, because it's right in here.
It used to be like a lot more.
Bond payments to the library.
A lot.
Or a year.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 159. So this current year is 165, it's 159 this coming year. Well, we'll be discussing at 153 for the next one.
And then we're out.
Your payment is, I think you have something else in that line item for recurring payments, like, scuba, something or other.
No, that's gotta be a different line,
Yeah, it could be. Anyway.
because that's all under these guys, they like reading. I think it's awfully selfish of them.
So that's really what we have is kind of a cheat sheet. So I'll ask Donna, I mean, she has this. I will go back and just ask her for comments and I will try to do some cleanup. If there's any information you can find that you can send to, that we can give a brief description on that urban renewal grant, if it's something.
Yeah, yeah, let me see what I can find on that.
Let me know.
Yeah.
What does scuba stand for? Or s-
Self-contained breathing apparatus.
I even knew that one.
Self-contained breathing apparatus.
Oh, okay.
So it shows up.
You
It
can
showed up
remember, because scuba gear is self-contained underwater breathing
Underwater,
apparatus.
yeah, I knew that.
This is above water.
Oh,
It's
okay.
Yeah, it does
Land
show up.
lubbers.
stored floats.
It did show up in your line item, line 910, I think, when I looked at the budget. So at any rate, it's in there. It's somewhere.
Yeah,
So that's what we have. So Stu, that was a very helpful suggestion and I thank you for it. Because quite frankly, I thought I had a handle on some of this and then I looked at it and it was still very informative, so.
Every year somebody would ask, what's fund, whatever, and.
Yeah.
mhm.
So ideally, we keep this somewhat up to date. But again, you guys should have the supporting information to give. You can inform yourselves as much as you want, because I sent you what information was available about the programs. We can take it from there. Any other thoughts, questions? All right. Moving on, capital planning strategies, initial discussion and consideration. So I had grand ideas to get further with this. Really kind of an open initial conversation to piggyback on that and what we're looking at ahead. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how much we need to honestly discuss it at this point. I think realistically, I think we'll have a better conversation,
When we have more information.
when we have more information and potentially following the school's gonna, because they do have some up-to-date information on the lease, or the last data we were pulling out was from the school referendum. And they, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but it's like a month old now. Some more recent bond schedule information, but I suspect more up-to-date interest rates that we can kind of extrapolate. We're looking at what a potential payment may be on $11.5 million bond for fire departments or whatever one would be for any school project or roadway improvement. So that'll be helpful. We can further discuss that. I think just knowing that where we are from equipment need, that's a good underlying assumption. And then Pete, you have a number, I know we have, they haven't been submitted yet, but you have a number of items, engineering.
Yes, I talked to Mike D'Amato, he said he was gonna enter them, so when you say they haven't been entered, I will get with Mike.
No, it's not, they have time and I expect it all to.
Yes.
But we're expecting them and I think, there's probably a good $800,000 of new and probably somewhat time sensitive requests coming in this year on top of everything. that's already in there.
I've got one, I got a couple of big ones that. I just need the engineering done for.
Yeah.
And I need specific engineering done. And then for the animal control, I'm not sure where that's going, but I wanna make sure that we can jump when we have to jump, if it's gonna be that. The problem with regionalization is you gotta time with 4 other towns.
Yeah.
And so when I'm told town asks for money and they get it. They just put it in the budget, it appears.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna carry this over to old business. Just as a way to have that overarching discussion, but just front and foremost. The need is looking to be pretty significant for this year and next. And it's just something we're gonna have to address. I don't know how much we're gonna be able to defer, but it's not looking like a capital improvement budget is going to be all that attractive this year.
It never is.
It never is, but I'm worried. Well, let's see, I'm not gonna prejudge. So we'll table that till next meeting and the meeting after. Old business, board department presentation schedule. I have no updates, so it holds as
As it is on the sheet.
Correct.
That's good.
The
All right.
duplicate date is March sixth. That's when Board of Selectmen is presenting to the Board of Finance. Pete, that was I had them both listed as 2/27 in that sheet, so. It's corrected on, oh, sorry, that letter that you got, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
what date am I coming?
In the massive thing we had, yes, in the schedule we discussed last week.
Yeah.
The duplicate date, you're presenting before the Board of Finance on the 6th of March. I think it showed the 27th of February.
All right, this says 5th of March, but,
Well, that's our meeting.
CIP.
all right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not there yet. So, no updates on the overall schedule beyond that for the departments.
Okay, we go.
Next week, we have Board of Ed coming in, to give basically an update on where things stand for their planning process, the Q and M update. And Phil will, I guess, provide us more relevant update data than what we had last year at this time. After that, we have the fire departments coming in with the emergency building committee. The following week is UP,
Yeah,
with Public Works and,
Animal
animal control. We can have that whole discussion in there, because I figure it's in your, based on our recent discussion now, it's in your wheelhouse there. And then everybody else is the following week, which gives us really 4 good weeks of figuring out what we do with this thing after the fact. With our presentation to the Board of Finance on March 20th. Which is the day after our meeting on the 19th of March, which is when we really need to have the things to 5-year plan approved. So that's where we stand. If anything shifts, I will let you guys know as soon as I find out about it, but I have not had anybody say they can't make it. So. Committee goals and priorities are sitting there, so. As we'll just leave it there as a talking point. As you guys have any ideas, like Stu's fund balance summary. My goals still personally remain trying to get as much data collection and due diligence and improving that effort for us up front. Long-term plan, I'd love to see something like that happening, like the equipment inventory happening for building projects and long-term planning for things like roof replacements of buildings. But there's a due diligence that we unfortunately are reactive. We rely on information provided by others. We're not going to assess buildings. We're not doing any of that. So we really need a system kind of set up in place. So
I don't know that this is us, although I could sort of see a, combined group, session or, event, and maybe not during the budget season perhaps, but during the post-planning season. I just think that the town we're sort of neophytes in terms of municipal bonding and big projects like that. We did the library, yes, but that's whatever, 17-year-old project, and it's almost sunset. We haven't really done anything besides that of significance. We have, multiple projects, and you've done a great job explaining what the vehicle picture is, given those escalating costs and how huge a bite that takes out of capital. We have, of course, the school situation is the school situation. Everybody knows about that. So I feel like we have a real lack of understanding of what goes into bonding, what those choices are, what those numbers look like. I think it's kind of a Board of Finance animal more than anything. I did suggest it at the Board of Finance back, when was it? When we were talking about building a new school versus repairing the schools, both of which have been elusive to us, spending wise. So I think we just, as a town, need to lose our innocence a little and learn about some of this in real terms with expertise sort of guiding the conversation. I don't think we necessarily have it on board. We just haven't been a town that's experienced it of late. You know, it's not really recent, but you know, Stafford's approach to the same kind of problem with their schools and their library and everything was to go and build a campus, which everybody feared at the outset, but ultimately they've come out at the other end with a much more successful story to tell. And I think, you know, like we don't have that, I don't sense that we have it, that we have that ability to kind of brainstorm and come up with solutions for our town and its particular needs. Because a lot of people just don't understand what goes into big, you know, to big dollar finance. And I think we need to learn about it. So that to me would be goal one for the whole town, but maybe I'm the only one who really feels this need. I felt it in a crying way 2 years ago, and now I'm still seeing it. I'm not seeing any of that go away.
No, well, I mean, I definitely think it's a valuable discussion, for sure. I think, you know, at least initially. We have a tendency to say, okay, that's gonna be a bond, and it will push it out, oh, it's a bond in year 4. Because we don't have a reserve fund, you know, I think the practices we do for. Generally funding capital improvements, there's an overarching discussion there about how we. Have a reserve fund, shockers orders for the school that builds in it, that accrues a balance, and that accrues interest that reduces the. Significant bond hit of significant project down the line, the more we can build that or increase that. Transfer to capital reserve, when the time comes for a bond to hit. It
Transfer out.
transfers
It's
out.
like having a bigger down payment on a house you
Yeah.
would buy.
So what,
Yeah.
well, and that's exactly it. So I think one of the things we can do initially, this partially on the information that Bill's got from Madonna recently for bond payment, we can understand like, okay, what is $1 million? And,
What-
you know,
Yeah,
what does $1 million cover?
exactly.
Is it 12 million? Is it 13? How much interest is on that? And what are the ways for us to reduce that outlay or plan for that, right? You know, I personally think,
$1 billion is 5% of the total complement.
yeah,
Of course, you know, that. It's a hard sell.
you know.
Well, what I feel
but we
like
build to that.
our practice has
Which
been,
we don't do.
particularly on CIP, our practice has been, you know, kind of. Don't think about, you know, some of the bigger expenses that are scarier, like we don't really. You know, it's really hard to plan for a future, I think, this way, cause it's kind of like saying, give it every year, give us your Christmas list. And then we say, oh, sorry, another little hole in your stocking, and, you know, we'll do that, you know, next year, we'll push it out in a 5-year plan. And then as Stu knows, it gets pushed out sometimes
Well,
beyond the 5 years.
I know
I
that
just feel like we don't have a sense of what's possible,
for many.
and I would like to
years,
have a sense of what's possible.
we stayed at about 500,000.
Yeah.
496 or something like that, and then it took a jump. And what I think we need to do is we used to shoot for 0. And I don't think that.
Zero increase.
Yeah, and I think we should be shooting for an increase
I used to
that's
say
sellable.
10%, I used to ask for 10%, and then I would be told, no, it's 0.
Yeah,
But Pete, the reason we did that for so many years where we were told,
Right.
people were told no, that it's not been allowed to grow in the way it
Right.
should have.
I think that it should,
So we gotta,
I'm gonna get crucified for saying this, but I think it should grow. It's just that we have to grow it at a rate the town will accept. And finding that percentage between 0 and no is our job. And
There's also realities of that discussion that need to, you know, we're behind the wall. It's gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna be effective.
That's a reality. That's definitely a reality, but the other reality is that. In the end, it's gotta go to referendum. And I hear from people. Constantly. As a matter of fact, Mike McCoo just responded to somebody online. Is the mill rate gonna go down? I hope so. You know,
That's probably related to the reval.
that's right, the reval, people think that
yeah,
we set a mill rate and then we take the money rather than figure out how much
No,
we're
it's
gonna
not-
get and then go the other way, yeah.
Naturally goes down after a revow. That's, I
That's
don't,
also the importance of the
I
discussion.
I would think,
The understanding on that is a lot smaller than you would think.
yeah, but that's just because people don't understand revals and you forget things that happen over
And
every 6
they
years.
don't
or whatever
understand
it
mill
is.
rate either. so.
Yeah, no, I know,
Yeah,
I know, but that's
but
an education thing, that's not a,
well, it is, but it's also.
it's a reality
It's
that
also
it
a
will go
joint
down.
effort, you know, like, that's why it's great, we got before the Board of Selectmen last week, we're going from the Board of Finance tomorrow, but, you know. Undercutting efforts, we all have to be kind of working together and speaking.
Right.
In the same way, because it doesn't matter if we get 3 months from now, we present a board to the Board of Finance, and if they don't understand, or if the answer is no, then it's a futile effort, but the reality is, we don't work on a plan towards increased spending, we're spinning our wheels here in this little point, because there's not much planning in
No,
the capital improvement program.
I'm not doubting you at all on that, it's.
You mean we
I'm
could
just-
free up our Wednesday nights for all time?
No, but I mean, it's really,
No, it's true,
it's, you know, if it's a checkbook, it's a
it's a
checkbook.
waste of time otherwise, yeah.
But there has to be an effort to kind of work together to build towards something. It's probably gonna make everybody unhappy, but it's potentially a good thing. I don't know.
All right.
Jim, did
Can we
we
move on to
draft,
outreach efforts, because I kind of want to go home.
did we have draft, you wanna see the second half of the women play?
Oh, yeah.
We're into the fourth quarter
Oh,
already.
damn.
All right, so
The DVR is running.
moving on, outreach efforts, just briefly, we talked about this, I did manage, so, we are on the agenda. We're the only item on the agenda for tomorrow night at Board of Finance, I'd encourage anybody that is interested in, hearing a discussion to attend. My hope is to not do a line by line like we did with the Board of Selectmen, but we're there to just, you know, be as informative as we need to be answering questions they have, but just to start the conversation of, you know, what things look like, the big picture needs are.
I would think that if they'd like the line by line, they should just review the Board of Selectmen video, because I think that, I've been referring people to that as just an education in CIP.
Yep, and that's,
I mean, I gotta admit that I was losing my mind because.
I thought Jim and Christina were excellent, were exemplars of calm, thorough responses. You guys are good educators.
yeah, so with that said, I don't need to do it back to back weeks. If we-
Yeah, I know.
I am happy to, like, we're there to answer any questions they have to get familiar with some of the issues we see in this plan, what's holdover, you know, what the changes are from last year, what we see coming up this year. And just be available to
And
What, oh,
start
oh,
hopefully planning.
go ahead.
I was just gonna move on to the CIP letter. I started to read this letter, but what I would like to do before we discuss it is to read it more in depth.
Me too.
So thank you for writing it.
Yeah.
But I need time to read.
I wanted to get this printouts. I'll email it to you again today. I just wanted to make sure you had it in front of you.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
The thought being generally, it was a suggestion by Christina, but similar to what's been done in the past, just here's an update on what we're doing.
Yeah, and now,
Ideally,
yes, and how to mail it is, or.
I'm
how
not
to
saying mail it,
distribute
but yeah,
I think we should distribute it, at least through the town, the people who have requested email, because. Those are the people that are most likely to read it.
And you can just take that and post right on Facebook.
Yeah,
yeah,
that was my intent.
that was my question to you, so please, take a look at this, I drafted it up.
Yep,
this morning.
that's what I was thinking, if I need to take a look at it.
Christina, you can let me know, I added you on here as vice chair, you're welcome to say, take my name off.
Too bad, I just listed you that way. We had some issues with the town clerk meetings and such.
So the hope of this is just, here's the schedule, here's what we're going to pay attention, participate,
We're not-
here's what we're looking at, as potential significant needs. And just, you know, an informational update to get people paying attention.
That right.
All right,
Spell it. Before you move to adjourn,
I wasn't, that wasn't my next move, actually.
Oh.
Amazingly enough, I had another
well,
action.
go ahead then, I don't wanna bite you off, I just
before we
wanted to
move
make one.
Hey, because of the Monday holiday, if we can push, I'd like to push that before our next meeting, because the Board of Ed is coming up on that Wednesday.
Yeah,
So if there's any comments, let me know, we can edit.
and then try to get it out on
Try
Tuesday.
to get it out on Tuesday.
All right.
Then the only thing that jumped out at me, because,
Is your name misspelled?
yep,
Did I really?
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to do
But-
something.
I copied that from something.
I know, it's
HOS.
like
Yeah.
that in a lot of things.
That was a copy paste. I don't know where that
I'm
one came
still an
from.
editor.
Thank you.
Okay, no, just where, like, how you, the second paragraph, it said the capital improvement programs, parentheses CIP.
Mhm.
If you could do that for all of the boards. Because
Yeah,
I just know people don't know what, like, DOF or BOE is, if they haven't been
yeah,
reading it.
you're right.
It's very true.
I did for everybody's on Board of Finance apparently.
Yeah, that was the one that I was like, oh, yeah,
All right.
but that was the only, I think it's great.
And the other thing, Jim, is do you have more copies of this packet? And if not,
I do.
do you mind distributing them to these two guys?
Absolutely.
That would be great, and so they can get caught up. I should have asked you to do that earlier in the meeting.
My apologies, so yeah, federal copy too. You got it. Yep.
And
Thanks, Jim.
if you guys could give him your email addresses before you, at the end of this, so that we can get you on the distribution list. Now I'm done.
That's good, you guys, thank you for the
Ready
checkers,
to
but
speak.
content is welcome as well.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I wanna read it. I read real slow and absorb even slower.
Yeah, I apologize, guys, there's a lot. I wanted to get this out to you sooner, so you had more advance notice, but
And I wouldn't have been able.
I
So
wasn't
we have
trying to
to
get to
win
it.
Monday? Or
Yeah,
we
well,
have
Monday's
to-
a holiday for
Tuesday?
most people, but this, I'd like to push it out Tuesday, so if we can. Finalize by the end of the weekend, if you guys have any comments, otherwise I'll clean up what we just talked about and ask Pete to push out. Does that go to you, Pete?
Yeah, I do the Facebook pushes and then Shannon, well, we don't know right now who does
The email,
email.
all right.
We're
The thing I was
supposed to
gonna
figure
say
Oh.
about it in general is under goals.
Issues.
The idea of, and I appreciate the people who came and, the fire department people who were here.
Yeah,
Under goals, I think, is finding a way where we can sort of,
I wish I could discuss it.
more promotionally reach out. I mean, I think this is good, but I mean, on a regular basis, make ourselves open to having people come in and enter the process, because the things we were talking about, like what does $1 million really pay for, and what's reasonable expectations in a town our size, and that kind of thing. I think we could put that on the goal list, because getting people to enter the process somewhat. I know it's,
yeah,
we always say this, and every committee says this. So, and actually, and Pete knows because I've mentioned this before, overall, the town needs to fill the gap of its of a lack of communication that's sort of the result of many factors, not just the town itself. It's just that the town's the one that's gotta kind of solve it. And that's it. There's not a communication, aren't communication vehicles anymore. People can't pick up the Wilmette Chronicle or the JI and see what's happening in Wilmington. They're just not covering it anymore. So, and you can do Facebook and stuff so much, but, and I know Christina has ideas about filling the gap, but you know what I mean? We gotta figure out some smart ways to.
Absolutely.
I think there's been a cultural shift in people used to sit down and read the morning paper,
That's right.
and now they're surfing.
And that's where it was. That's where the,
And yeah, and that's where it was, and now, because that's not the only stream of information, people are looking for information other than what we want them to get. We want them to get this information
yeah,
for good reasons, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but a lot of people have lost interest in that information because they've got other things they're looking at.
Yeah, but I don't think anything's replaced it as far as the accuracy of it compared to, you know, posts on Facebook. That's just
No,
not
no,
gonna do it. It's
I'm not
going
saying
your
they're,
ways to get a few people, but you know what I mean?
it's
I
just
mean,
that they're
I
watching, I'm
think-
not even saying they're looking at news. They're full,
No.
they're
And you
watching
know-
TikTok.
And you know, one of the things I think would add to it, yeah, right, not for long. That I would add to the idea, but it would add to the selectman budget or someone's budget. Is a quarterly report on what's going on in town isn't enough, really. We need like something like what Ashford does, which it tells people, these are the issues, you know, that we have, and that's monthly, and I think Mansfield does it.
I mean, that's.
A lot of towns do it. It's a lot of
It's
work.
been a discussion that I've heard across multiple boards.
Yeah,
for
but you'd
a
have
couple of
to,
years.
you'd have to put someone in charge of it and pay them. You know.
And right now, I don't even have it, I'm training people to do their jobs now, rather
I
than,
know,
it's.
we have some turnover, don't we?
Yeah,
A lot.
I know, I need a recreation director and an assistant assessor,
Mhm. And someone in the finance office.
and somebody in the, well, that's coming. I don't, that's still up in the air. Our lawyer just had a baby like 3 days ago, so she's not answering my calls.
Oh, really? Imagine that. Thanks.
But she's
Sorry.
healthy.
No, that, I mean, but
Everybody's healthy.
related to CIP.
I told her,
Yeah, we got the letter, we got
That's a-
more final.
Paralegal, yeah, through the phone.
No, you're doing.
Whatever we can figure out, I don't have any magic solutions to keep the
No, no.
conversation beyond
She's very young.
where people
She's a
participate,
good
they don't
age,
participate.
have a lot of babies.
I
think this
think
is
one
the
of the
second one in
positives
3
is
years.
the lawyer or any gentlemen are sitting in the audience. And that broadens our horizons automatically.
Yep.
So it's a step in that direction.
Yeah, in fact, we had 2 people, fill 2 vacancies.
Yeah.
It's wonderful, gentlemen. I hope you know what you're in for. All right, so with that said, about the president to speak? All right, president to speak. Do we have, is there anybody online besides me and Melissa?
No.
No? You guys wanna say anything? I'm good. You're gonna get to say plenty over the weeks to come. All right.
I don't know if you ever got that, that's my desk phone.
Oh,
Don't call my desk phone, I never answer it because I'm never.
Is that 3100?
Yeah, call 3102, that's Shannon, and she takes a message for me.
Thank you, Pete.
And I don't know how to get to my voicemail because
All right,
I've gotten 2 in a year.
so with no president to speak, do you wanna make the motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second. All in
Excellent.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, Melissa, aye? All
And
right.
you have to leave through the top.
Bye.
Time
Melissa.
is 8:46
No, I know.
PM.